Good afternoon, Penguin Beaches, and welcome down to Oystercatcher Cove. It is a stunning autumn day down here, and Flippy and I are so excited to be sharing this hour with you. My name is Jax. I'm going to be your naturalist down here, and we've decided that we want to spend today at Oystercatcher Cove. But let's go have a look at our penguins and see what they are doing. So the tide is really coming in to Oystercatcher Cove, and so I'm interested to see what the penguins are going to do. The sea is fairly calm today, but we've got a nice big swell rolling in, and so these penguins are very relaxed at the moment. I'm not sure they're going to stay this way for long. Just a reminder that we are a live show, so please send us your comments and questions either on our channels page or by using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. Let's go have a look at the weather report before we get the show started. So we are looking at two penguins, and just before the show, this one penguin looks like he was trying to flirt with a partner. So I don't know if this is a late breeding pair or if they are partners and they're maybe just a little bit awkward. So I think we want to spend a bit of time just watching these two penguins to see what they do. And if you are under the age of 18, I promise that we haven't forgotten you. You can email us at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Oh, there's a seal. So I know that we always say there's a seal on the show and very rarely show you one, but I've just spotted him. Do you see him, Flippy? So he's almost in line with that rock over there. He's just come up. He's behind the kelp line, behind the first kelp line and in between the second. So we'll just see if the seal sticks around. The water is very turbulent today, and he's really jumping up the water quite a lot. But I think he's very hard to get on camera. We'll try our best for you. I think, yes, we've got him there. Starting our show with a Cape Fur seal. How lucky are we? So this behavior is called porpoising, and seals do this when they want to move super fast. So what they do is they'll take a quick breath and then they'll go down and they'll jump up and take a quick breath again. And I think the seal is in the kelp forest at the moment. And seals are unlikely to porpoise inside a kelp forest because they can hide within the forest itself. We'll just have a look. In Penguin Beaches, it's always a bit nerve-wracking when we do have seals about here.
This morning we were driving and suddenly we heard a lot of commotion. I think the wild dogs might have caught an impala then, or the leopard might have caught the impala, and as it was dragging it, the wild dog saw it, started chasing the leopard up into the tree, and then the hyenas came to steal it. whale sighting.
Darkman lover, thank you so much for watching. So Pepper doesn't really hang out at Oystercatcher Cove. I think where I've heard Pepper be seen is in the left wing and then also at Penguin Beach itself. So you never know. That's why I work with the ocean, is everything is always up to chance. But I am with you guys until Wednesday next week. So we are going to spend a bit of time out at the left wing. Penguin Beach in winter is not quite as fun because there's not so many penguins there with the stormy seas. And we will try to find Pepper for you. We are on that mission. Flippy says he was trying to find Pepper for you this week too. I think Pepper likes the theme days though. So I think World Environment Day is on the 5th of June. So maybe Pepper will make an appearance then. And we also have the very exciting World Oceans Day coming up on the 8th of June. These penguins, once again, don't seem all that excited about our theme days. Seem to have relaxed a little bit and are now just sitting on the rocks, enjoying themselves, sunning themselves. And Penguin Beaches, this is likely to be the last sunny and windless day that we have for some time, because today is the calm before the storm. So I'm not getting your name perfect. I think it's Nicola. Nicola, you're asking if the number of penguins has increased because of a change in temperature. And unfortunately, no. So our African penguin population is still in a decline. The increasing temperatures, I think, don't necessarily benefit penguins. I think heat stress is actually quite negative for penguins on land. And then what is happening with our ocean is that our oceanic temperatures off the coast of South Africa, our average temperatures are becoming colder, and there's been a natural movement then because of that, of the fish from west to east, and penguins traditionally lived on the west coast of South Africa. So I wouldn't say that the temperatures help penguins. I'd say that it is something that doesn't help them very much. But something that does help penguins very much is Sandcob, which are the penguin hospitals that we have in Cape Town and Port Elizabeth. And I do just want to give them a shout out today because recently there was an oil spill in Algoa Bay and they were just so prepared, and they are on standby, making sure that if there are any birds with oil, they'll pick them up immediately and be able to give them immediate care. So there are things that are happening that aren't so great for penguins, but there is also a lot happening where people are working super hard to make sure that we mitigate that. And our director Jared has just given me your name so I can say it properly, and it is Petula. That's a very unusual name. It's the first time I've heard it. But thank you for that question, Petula. That's a very interesting one because sometimes a change in temperature does benefit animals, certain animals, and I think certainly with our penguins, they prefer the colder conditions.
My name is Amy Macmillan. I'm the owner and founder of Ellie and May and one of the directors of the Macmillan Conservation Fund. My brother Mike and I were incredibly close and both share a great passion for conservation, for wildlife, for nature, for elephants in particular. Tragically, Mike was killed in a car accident. It was through his passion and enthusiasm for conservation and for elephants that really prompted me to start Ellie and May. Ellie and May is a lifestyle apparel brand that contributes towards and raises awareness about elephant conservation. So a percentage of our sales of our caps and our products goes towards the Macmillan Conservation Fund. The aim of the Macmillan Conservation Fund is to support other conservation initiatives through anti-poaching, through the conservation of Africa's wildlife, community upliftment, development and education, and at the heart of it all, keeping Mike's legacy.
So this bird that we were looking at earlier has a little chick inside its nest. I still thought that those penguins were establishing a mating bond, but it looks like they're just two awkward parents. Because this chick is doing super well. He's just stuck his head back into the nest, but we'll see if we get another view. And you can see parent penguin is super protective and chasing away the other penguin from the nest. You can't see that, I can see that. There was a penguin next to them, which is why you saw the penguin turn its head a bit. So if there are chicks in a nest and a penguin walks past, they get quite upset and they make sure that they protect their chicks. I don't think an adult penguin would ever actually hurt a chick of another penguin. But they do seem to be very protective if they do have. There's that other chick that's out of the nest now in the pathway. And he's just laid down. So there is a very fluffy little penguin who's just laid down next to its parent in the penguin pathway. So you can just see the fluff on the back and you can see the parent's black back. And this is the time where the chicks are starting to hang out outside the nest. The parents are still very protective over the chicks. Oh, there he is. Anton, yes, they will, because in the middle of summer when the rocks are really hot, we did get to see the adults still lying on the rocks. I think that the spots that they keep beneath them wouldn't be that hot, and I certainly think it's a lot cooler than what sand would be. I don't think these rocks absorb heat in the same way that the sand does. I'm just thinking of my own feet because I walk barefoot on rocks like this quite often. So they will continue to lie there. And I think that their feathers are so well insulated that they can withstand temperatures that we wouldn't with our bare skin. Although the overall body of the penguin would become very hot and then they would open their mouth. But we're getting such a nice view of this little chick. So I've seen this chick before walking up and down. I've walked up and down the colony. The chick doesn't go very far from the nest just yet. But I love, if you look at their tummies, they have all of these little rolls because they've still got to grow into their body, which you don't really see on the adults unless they are getting ready to molt.
Our Western Cape coastline is graced with the Cape fur seal. This playful species is curious and entertaining. At Hout Bay Seal Rescue Centre, seals in need are rescued, fed and nursed back to health by our well-trained team of dedicated staff and volunteers. This wonderful legacy of the centre is continued as these protected creatures are rehabilitated and released back into the wild.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, we have exciting news for you.
The winner of this month's prize giveaway will win a hamper full of Explorer merchandise.
Like this fantastic t-shirt that comes in plenty of great colours, a very useful tote bag or even a cap.
For those in the southern hemisphere that's heading into winter, a sweatshirt to keep you warm.
Head over to the WildEarth Explorers page. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win all of these goodies.
WildEarth, it's in your nature.
So we are getting the most wonderful views of this little penguin chick as it's exploring its nursery ground. Olivia, yes, it has. I think it's been recorded in zoos. We had this question a few months ago, and I think there was a couple of zoos where they'd recorded two embryos in one egg, and I think it can happen with chickens as well. And then I believe that in the case of these zoos, they would actually give one of the chicks to another penguin couple. So it can happen. I think it must be extremely rare in the wild, but it's not biologically impossible. Let me put it that way. And oftentimes, if you do look at these nests, if you visit a penguin colony, you'll look at the chicks and think, oh, they must be twins. They're exactly the same size. Oh, look at the baby, he's walking. I don't think he's following his parents, but look at him testing his boundaries. And his waddle is still very awkward compared to that of its parents. I've lost my train of thought now, that baby. What I was saying is that at the first stage of development, they tend to look the same. Brenda, it is the best part about watching baby animals is watching them try and often fail to figure things out. I love clumsy baby animals. It's my favorite thing in the world to watch. So if this chick has a brother or sister, they'll look the same for the first few weeks of life, and then one of the chicks will take the lead, and the parents will feed the one chick a lot more than the other chick, so that the one chick fledges, so the one chick goes to sea a couple of weeks before the other. So now they'll focus on giving both chicks equal food, but later on they'll focus more on one than the other. I think we've got some penguin politics happening here. So the one, can you see that line on its tummy? I think that's where the brood patch is for the egg. So that's where underneath that line, that would be a naked part of the penguin's body, where they would actually put the egg against the brood patch. And that brood patch is a patch of skin that's lined with blood vessels, which helps to keep the egg nice and warm. So I believe that's what that line is. These penguins don't seem to know exactly where they'd like to be. Andrea, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for saying hello all the way from Germany. It's lovely to know where in the world people are watching from. So if you do send in your comments, also let us know where you're from. It's one of the great things about being a guide, actually, is meeting people from all over the world and learning about different things from all over the world from your guests. You might not be here in person, but you are still our guests, and we do love to learn more about you, just as you like to learn about our penguins.
All things bright and beautiful. All creatures great and small. All things wise and wonderful. WildEarth will see it all. Each little flower that opens, each river that does flow. Join us to celebrate World Environment Day for a very special safari show. We want to hear from our Wild Earth kids this World Environment Day. You are the future protectors of our planet, and we want to help you understand what needs to be preserved.
We saw a termite mound. We got to see a lot of unique animals. Some trees are male and female. That's pretty cool, right?
A whole lot of different creatures.
It was amazing that we could ask questions.
Kids, send in your questions for our special World Environment Day safari on June the 5th.
It was so cool!
Howard, so that's a really interesting question. So the chick has just gone in between the rocks. I really am curious to see where this chick comes out. I don't think they are, to be honest. I think the chick's feet are quite tough from the get-go, just to prepare them for life, sort of walking on these really tough surfaces. So I don't think it's like human baby feet, where humans have very soft feet until we start walking. I think that from the get-go they have super tough feet, so that, because remember they're also spending those first 2 months or so on land before they actually go into the ocean. So it wouldn't be beneficial to have soft baby feet for them, because that would just mean that their feet were getting sore, getting hurt, if they were walking over things. So I don't think I've ever touched a baby penguin's foot, the underside of its feet. Flippy, have you ever touched a penguin foot? No? I know with other baby birds that I have worked with, the feet are pretty much exactly the same as the adult in terms of texture and hardness. I don't seem to be able to find nice words today, but that's certainly what I would think, is that their feet are very much like the adults. Because penguins are also heavy, remember, compared to other birds. Other birds have much more delicate feet, but the heavier the bird is, the sturdier those feet need to be. And I'm just waiting to see, because there's a penguin waddling by. In the background, you can just see the legs in the frame. So I wonder if that's the adult penguin who's looking for its chick, because the chick waddled in between the rocks. The adult is now having a wander. I think it is, because those other two seem to have a problem with this penguin. So every time this penguin moves, the other two seem to move too. Sinak, Spas, I would say baby penguins, just because I find them a lot fluffier. I don't know if the down is really the only thing that qualifies it, but I find baby penguins so adorable, because I think they're also a lot rounder, where, you know, ducklings have to have these little long legs that they can swim with and walk around with, where a baby penguin looks very helpless and very round. And I am of the opinion that the rounder a baby animal is, the cuter it is. So that's what I would say. Flippy, what do you prefer? The goslings, crazy eights, or baby penguins? What's cute? Yeah, Flippy also says the penguins. I don't know if that's an instinctive thing with people and with, because if I look at a round baby animal, I immediately feel broody for it. Like I feel really maternal over a round baby animal. So I don't know if that's like an instinct that comes with being human. When we see baby things that are round and cute, we think it's healthy, we want to interact with it. I do often wonder about that. These two penguins have no idea what they want to do. They are so confused. Momo, so this is June spinach, and June spinach is actually really nice to sit on, I must say. Like, it's a really It's supposed to be quite a harsh leaf, but I find it's really comfortable because it's like a downy cover. So I wouldn't say I've necessarily rolled in June spinach, but I think it's probably a lot more comfortable than grass, and I don't think it would make you itch quite as much as what grass would. But I think let's go have a look at our penguins along the seashore. I'm sure you can hear as I talk that the sea is very loud today. The waves are crashing. And it's not because the swell's particularly large. I think maybe it's the tide and our proximity to the waves today, but also the rocks that make the sound quite echoey here. And there's this very narrow band that the penguins like to sit. Do you have some penguins who are in the water?
The Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is approaching us rapidly. This year, we'll be heading to Bushwise Field Guides at the Southern African Wildlife College from the 27th June till the 2nd of July. We will soon meet all our contestants who are vying for the prize of being the very best of the best, and the judges who will put them through their paces. Join me, Steve Falconbridge, as we dream it, guide it, win it.
Conrad, so that's a really good question. So at this age, I think the parents are still keeping a really close eye on the chicks. And we've got that same little chick who is hanging out with its parents at the moment. So at this age, they will stay very close. I think that only once they start to get really downy feathers, or they start to lose their downy feathers, sorry, and they start to actually get their juvenile plumage, will they start heading down to the rocks. At this stage, they're not waterproof, so the closer they venture to the water, the more dangerous it is for them. So I think the parents keep them nice and close, and I think in the next month, we might start to see some of the chicks slowly making their way closer to the water's edge. So this little chick has had a walk around, but I wouldn't even say it's a meter by a meter from its nest. It's still very close. And this is something that's quite normal for all seabirds. Seabirds are slow developers, so they take much longer to fledge and to gain independence from their parents than most other birds. The seabirds are also much, they have a longer life, so their longevity is a lot more than most other birds. Just going to see. So Flippy moved the camera at the perfect time because we all got to see those penguins get a bit of a splash from the wave. Bobby, if I gave you a very specific answer, like 20 minutes, I think I would be lying to you. I will have a look and see if I can find anything tonight, but I actually don't know if anybody's ever studied that. I wouldn't say it's all that long, because with those waterproof feathers, the water's designed to sort of just, roll off the feathers, where I think that phrase, water off a duck's back, comes from. The idea is that the water rolls off it, so it wouldn't be hours and hours that it would take them to dry. Flippy the biologist, what do you say? Flippy is also not sure. So what we're going to do, we're going to go have a look, and I'll see if I can find anything. I'll throw out a ballpark figure of, I would say, 20 minutes to half an hour. But I wouldn't imagine it's much longer than that, because I think that the waterproofing is designed to not have the feathers be completely soaked. Thank you, that's a really good question. It's always nice when people think of things that you would have never thought about or never really considered before. And today we do have a bit of a show and shell for you.
Ribbon is the matriarch and has recently been seen with injuries to her body. Corky was the previous matriarch and is believed to be taken back her status. Intima was born to Ribbon in February 2017 and also enjoys a high ranking. Heart is the next rank down. A named June is believed to be the lowest rank, easily recognizable by a floppy left ear. 3 brothers named the Avoca males arrived in Juma in 2018. This area had recently been vacated by the Birmingham boys. In 2019, they were seen mating with females from both prides and went on to sire cubs with them. The most recognizable lion in this coalition is Darkmane. Aside from the dark mane that gave him his name, he can be recognized by a distinctive limp.
So we've been looking at a penguin who is just having a clean after some time in the water. And we're going to do a show and shell. So this is an awful time to look at the intertidal zone because the tide is coming in. But I did manage to find these really cool shells, and shells that I actually had never seen before the other day. I was walking on a very deserted beach. It's only really fishermen who ever find themselves there. And I found shells of an animal that we've seen on the show, but I've never actually found. So Flippy is going to come to me, and we are going to talk about chitons. So here I have a giant chiton, which is otherwise known as an armadillo chiton. And I'm actually going to put it down because I realize that when I talk, I move my entire body and then you can't see what's happening. So this is the giant chiton. They are a grazing animal that lives in this ecosystem. And to me, they always look a lot like a fossil. So I find them super fascinating. I really love to see them under the water. And they have 8 or 9, let me count, because I've just forgotten, of these armored plates. So we can count them together. So there's 1 plate, 2 plate, 3 plates, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plates. 8 plates on the surface of the chiton. And that is to protect them from being eaten by other animals in the ocean. And then the body of the chiton would be inside that armored plating. And during the day, they like to hide from all the other animals. And at night, they will start walking around on the rocks and they'll eat the algae off the rocks. These guys are absolutely massive. The ones we got to see on the show a couple of weeks ago were much smaller. I do find them to be a really interesting animal living at sea. They seem to be quite prehistoric in their appearance. Just so that you can see this guy in the book, you can see the nice big guy. And it does say in the book that the shells often look like they've been degraded. So these shells do look like they're old and that they've been through wars. And most of the chitons will live on rocks, but some of them will burrow under the sand so that nothing can find them. And then this guy in the picture has a really clean shell. There's nothing on that shell there. But if you have a look at this shell that we have, it's got some algae growing on it. And there's actually encrusting algae, so that pink is encrusting algae. But that is to the animal's benefit. Ollie, I'd say it's certainly the biggest chiton that we have in South Africa. I'm not sure it's the biggest one in the world. So what we're going to do is we're going to have that be an unanswered question for tomorrow. And I will look up and see what the biggest chiton is. And I'm going to include prehistoric chitons because I feel like there would be massive prehistoric chitons. I feel like these are the biggest that we get along the South African coastline. But there are over 800 different species of chiton alive in the world today. So it is a type of animal that is actually fairly abundant and it is fairly diverse. So I hope that you've enjoyed having a look at them and you can still ask us questions about the chiton. I think I'm going to head back to looking at penguins. It's very unusual to actually find the shell of these chitons, so I was very stoked when I found them. I'm very stoked to be able to show it to you guys.
In that tree are two carcasses. There's a duiker carcass and a waterbuck. Well, it's not as graceful as... He's a bit hesitant because, well, climbing a tree is not the easiest, but he will get up there eventually. So let's see, there he goes. And look at the power in that. That is a massive 500-pound cat that has just climbed the marula tree and is up in there. How cool is this? I don't know how he's going to do it, but let's see.
You can see the hyenas are far more tolerant of vultures than a lion or leopard would be. Occasionally a hyena will bite sort of a couple of tail feathers out of the back of a vulture, but I've never actually seen them, even once they've caught one, actually kill it. Oh, there we go, nearly got him.
Laura, so that's a really great question. Thank you for that. So I can't think of any birds that would do that here. Something that the birds do, so birds like francolins and sandgrouse, spurfowls, they do what we call dust bathing, where they'll actually bath themselves in dust. I don't think that really helps to cool them down so much. Other birds, I'm just thinking of the low-felt birds, will go and sit in the water. They will also poo on their own legs because that can help them cool down. Flippy, can you think of a bird that sits in the sand to help cool itself down? Flippy can't think of one either. I don't think so. I think it's certainly something that I think we do sometimes if we're on the beach and our feet are really hot, and you try and get to sort of that colder underlayer, which will help cool our feet down. But I can't say that there's a bird that I can think of that will purposely put itself in sand and purposely almost bury itself. But birds will certainly bath themselves in sand. That's quite a common sight with ground birds. And I'm sure at some point on WildEarth, somebody must have actually shown that, especially with the sand grouse. That's really beautiful to watch them do it. I really enjoy that. When I am in areas where they occur, in the Kruger Park in Djuma, you would definitely find them there. And that poor juvenile penguin looks like it's about to start molting. It looks very miserable. The other birds look somewhat more relaxed. And you can just pick it out. I think there's only juvenile in frame. He's just turned his head. He's on the left-hand side. And whilst the others look quite relaxed, he's looking a little bit tense. You can see the birds very close to shore are standing because they want a quick getaway, and the birds very far away from the shore are happy to lie down because they know that the water's not going to reach them. We just had a slight altercation, but the birds very quickly dissolved it. I do find that so strange how sometimes they can pick a fight and it ends immediately, and other times there'll be no reason to pick a fight. A bird will be doing absolutely nothing wrong, and they seem to enjoy antagonizing. All is peaceful down here at Oystercatcher Cove at the moment. But something I do want to show you, we're going to take a wide look at the area because we have a beautiful cloud bank which is coming in. And that cloud bank is showing us, even if I hadn't checked the weather, I actually saw the cloud bank before I checked the weather for the weekend, because that is so indicative of a storm coming in. So the bank is just looming over the coastline. And so tomorrow things are going to be very different down here at Stony Point. I'm really hoping that we get to go live the whole weekend. I'm hoping there's not too much rain.
Hyena and hippo walking side by side. Terror etched on the expression of little hippo. Look at this! Last mad dash! Hyena running along beside it. Baby hippo, jaws gaping. It's gonna make it. It's gonna make it. It did it. The baby hippo against all odds.
This is amazing. And now she's headed towards the elephants. Yeah. Here comes the male behind us. This is the male lion coming over here. The elephants are huddled up to protect the young ones in the middle, and he's going after that girl. And they are the buffalo going after the lion and the lioness. They're still going after them. Look at that guy charging. Hey!
Honey Badger, I do love your questions. I haven't heard from you in a long time, so I'm excited to have you with us today. Maybe you've been chatting to Byron. I am trying to think of one. The chitons are related somewhat to the mollusks. So I would say the closest land relative would be in the snail family. I'm trying to think of an animal that actually looks like a chiton, but what I'm thinking of are bugs, like centipedes and stuff, because they've got, to me, the shape is quite similar. Flippy, can you think of anything that looks like a chiton? Anything that's related? If it's the mollusks, I think the snails would be your normal garden snails, your land snails would be the closest living relative of chitons. But I wouldn't say that there's anything on land that looks remotely like them that's part of the same family. They always remind me of the segmented animals like your centipedes. I think maybe that's part of my fascination with them, is that because they're so, those 8 segments are so distinct, which I think is really cool. But I always thought that they were fossils actually when I was younger. Because to me it looks like a very ancient animal. But honey badger, once again, lots of unanswered questions today, because I'm going to go and have a look and see if there is any sort of relation. And then we have a lot to talk about on tomorrow's show. Tomorrow is also exciting because if you are a long-time watcher of Penguin Beach, we have a different camera operator tomorrow, someone who you might have seen at Juma or at Pridelands. So we've got a surprise guest camera operator that we're going to be having on the show with us tomorrow. I'm very excited to meet this person. Flippy is having a look towards Cormorant Cove. And I love this frame because you've just got penguins right at the bottom, just popping their heads up. But I really love this shot. Flippy and I were talking about it before the show because the rocks here are so beautiful and so fascinating. I don't know all that much about rocks, I will be honest, but I do find that the formations here are just really striking. And standing here, you can see all the way to the edge of the colony and you see all of the different rock formations, which I think is really, really cool. I mentioned, I think, when Jason was here last, you feel like you're on a deserted island when you look at the colony from this angle, because you're not seeing any vegetation, you're just seeing birds and rocks. And Flippy is looking at something. Oh my goodness, how did you spot that? Flippy has found us a girdled lizard. Andrew, so penguins, baby penguins will socialize. So not, I think as they get older, they might not be that social. But certainly when they are in the nest and when they're just a little bit older and starting to form nursery groups as their parents go out to fish, then they will certainly socialize and certainly interact with each other. And that's important for all animals, is that social interaction, learning how to deal with each other. And in the next couple of months, we are hopefully going to be showing that to you on Penguin Beach, and I think that's going to be super special. Because baby penguins certainly have to learn how to interact with their fellow penguins.
The Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is approaching us rapidly. This year, we'll be heading to bushwise field guides at the Southern African Wildlife College from the 27th June till the 2nd of July. We will soon meet all our contestants who are vying for the prize of being the very best of the best, and the judges who will put them through their paces. Join me, Steve Falconbridge, as we dream it, guide it, win it.
Honey Badger, once again, I love your questions. So quite a few actually. So a few years ago, 2018, we started to pick up bird flu in African penguins, and the bird flu had traveled from chickens to ostriches to seabirds to penguins, which wasn't the most fantastic thing, although the bird flu doesn't seem to affect them as badly as it does birds like swift terns and cormorants. They can get things like avian cholera, they can get blood parasites from ticks, and so there are several different diseases. Where I used to live in Gansbaai, every year there were birds that would get this thing that we'd call island disease, and it was never, I don't think anybody really knew what it was, but the birds every year at a certain time, and we believe it was due to stagnant pools of water on the island at the time, at that time of year in particular, the birds would get this disease where they would just be like, I don't want to say phlegmy, but kind of like there was a lot of fluid around their lungs. So they can get different diseases, and just like us, you know, obviously nobody's forgotten that COVID came about, and COVID has always been about, but there was a different strain that has really changed our world, and diseases work the same for marine animals. So, you know, diseases are always mutating, and, you know, it happens that sometimes something completely new also comes to penguin populations. But they certainly get diseases from their blood, from things like ticks that will bite them. Yeah, avian flu was not a great one. Avian cholera is not that fantastic. But the good news with penguins is that they do seem to be a lot more resilient to disease, I find, than cormorants. Your Cape cormorants tend to be very susceptible, and there's often these mass sort of die-outs of Cape cormorants if there's disease around. Penguins seem to be a lot more resistant, which is great news for them. It's great news for the species because they've got enough to worry about. And these two penguins are getting nice and cozy. And you can see when they are comfortable with another penguin, they turn their heads and their bills down, which is their way of saying, I'm happy to have you around me. You're allowed to touch me. They do seem to enjoy a cuddle. And these two are just making sure that their partner is clean and happy. Looks like they are settling in for the afternoon. Donald, that's a really good question. I would say no. I would go as far as to say baby penguins, even in their baby state, might bully baby Egyptian geese, but I think based on my experience of both penguins and geese, the parents would just never allow it. It would be like a fox and the hound thing, where even if they wanted to, the parents would just be like, we don't hang out with people that are not of our own species, we're not doing it. So I wouldn't foresee there being like a bird party of baby birds in this area, because penguins grow up to dislike every other bird species, and Egyptian geese are not far behind. I think the Egyptian geese here are the only sort of competition that penguins have. And I mentioned Cape cormorants earlier, and Flippy has found some for us. I think these Cape cormorants are actually slowly getting ready to set up for the breeding season here, because we've had so many around recently. So I think they're sussing out the sites. It's still very early.
Our Western Cape coastline is graced with the Cape fur seal. This playful species is curious and entertaining. At Hout Bay Seal Rescue Centre, seals in need are rescued, fed and nursed back to health by our well-trained team of dedicated staff and volunteers. This wonderful legacy of the centre is continued as these protected creatures are rehabilitated and released back into the wild.
We're just taking some time to watch my favorite sight. Gemma, I think we did. We had lots of penguins, so I'm glad that you've loved the show. I'm glad you've had a great time with us. I think we've had a good time down here too. I hope you guys all got to see that seal earlier on. And speaking of mammals, Chris is going to be looking for ellies in Pridelands, so that's his plan for the day. And then it looks like Cedric is going to be dam hopping, and Cedric was with Panda yesterday, and I was extremely jealous because I would love to meet Panda. I'd love to work with Panda, just because I think Panda has the best name in WildEarth. I think you can't top Panda's name. It's really quite spectacular. And then Tess has just gotten back, and she is going to go and visit her hyenas. So she's very excited about that. So it sounds like they've got lots of action planned for you on the safari show. Do you see all the penguins coming back in, Flippy? Got the 3 there. So I'm just looking at a group of penguins. They've just been pushed by the water now onto the rocks. They're all just heading in from the ocean. And it's so funny because you don't often see them. They kind of sneak through the kelp, and then suddenly you'll just have several of them ready to land. So for a black and white bird, which is supposed to be very striking, it's very easy to lose them in the water. I think we're just going to spend our last moments of the show with our penguins. I'm going to be with you all weekend and up until Wednesday, so we've got lots to chat about. Hopefully we'll do some show and shell. And it sounds like Chris has already found his elephant, so do stay tuned for that safari. On behalf of Flippy and I, we want to thank you for watching. Thank you for asking questions today. We hope that you had a fantastic time, and we are going to see you again tomorrow. Also stay tuned for tomorrow with our guest camera operator. Very excited to have him on the show tomorrow. Let's watch the penguins, and a very good afternoon to you all.
program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.